Ah, Ohio State, the presumptive number one team right now, based on what a lot of people feel like they're going to be. All right, let's dive into the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? This is a team. I just did a show last week. They were ranked eighth as one of the most hated teams. Drop a comment. Let me know how you feel about Ohio State. I don't think they're that bad, but some people do. Let's talk about Ohio State. Young but experienced. Young but experienced. How does towards the end of last year's failures, groom this Ohio State team? Groom this 2026 Ohio State team. A team that, where a lot of these guys play last year, what's next for them, right? Did those young guys learn from that experience, right? Obviously, you got Jeremiah Smith, but Julian Sayin, Bo Jackson, Kenyatt Jackson, right? What did those guys learn from the failures of last year? Losing the Big Ten title, losing in the playoffs, right? Again, Ohio State's always going to have pressure. How are those guys going to handle it going into this year? Art Smith, new OC, how does he adjust to the college game? How does he adjust to really the expectations of Ohio, being with Ryan Day, being with that team, right? A national championship robust. What is Arthur Smith going to implement into this Ohio State team? Now, I thought it was a weird hire, but who am I to question Ryan Day when I thought Matt Patricia was a weird hire, and Matt Patricia only led this team to having one of the best defenses in college football history, right? So this is one of those things where you just got to trust Ryan Day. You just got to trust Ryan Day, right? Now, Matt Patricia, new $3 million man a year, right? You should donate some of that to the College Sports Crew and Athletes Forum podcast, my friend, right? How is he going to adjust to losing the amount of talent he lost on defense? Because, man, they lost a lot of talent, including potentially 3 top 5, top 10 draft picks, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, right? Literally hit you at linebacker, and you're one of your best defenders, right? Jim Thorpe winner, Caleb Downs. Not to mention they're going to lose some D linemen up front as well, too. Names we need to know, names we should learn about, right? First of all, big-time recruit, Chris Henry Jr. Obviously, his dad played in the NFL for the Bengals with Chad Johnson, a.k.a. Chad Ochocinco. This is a guy who is taller than Jeremiah Smith, not as built out, but a guy that could do some damage at the college level and is college level ready, right? Then you got Devin McEwen, Brandon Ennis, they're coming in the mix as wide receiver. What does this group look like without Brian Hartline not as the receiver coach? Brian Hartline, now new head coach at USF. What is this? What's the development of this receiver group going to look like? That's one thing I'm curious to find out, right? Julian Sayin, what's his maturation look like, right? Because this is a guy that when we saw later down the year in the season, did he rely a little bit too much on Jeremiah Smith, right? Was he able to see the field as people thought, right? I know he had one of the record-ish, completion percentages, right? But what's the next step for him look like, right? Getting a little taste of success as a starter. What does that look like in this offseason and heading into spring ball, right? The O-line, they got to get some things fixed on the O-line because Indiana exposed them on that, especially on that right side. And Miami did the same thing. So Ohio State not coming in preseason as dominant as people may think, especially if they are rated number one. We got to wait till the AP poll comes out. I don't think they're coming in as strong as they did in the past. There's still some holes that got to be fixed, right? And defensively, right? Names you need to hear, especially your front D-line. Edric Houston, Will Smith Jr., Jason Moore. All guys that are returning, either rotational starters, second or third string, guys that have to really replace production on that defensive front. Linebacker, DB, huge holes. Listen, if you lose Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, 2 guys, All-American, 4 guys, going to be top 10 picks in the NFL draft. You lose those guys, it's going to be a challenge for any first-year starter. So who are those guys? Who are those guys coming into the mix? DB, right? Obviously, you lose Caleb Downs. You got Kenyatt Jackson coming back. I like what they did in the portal. You got Earl Little Jr. He was a safety from Florida State, right? You got Terry Moore, who was a safety from Duke, 116 tackles, 4 interceptions, right? Cam Calhoun, right? DB from Bama. So they replaced some guys. They went in, to go get some guys. Now, what does that cohesion look like? Because they're all going to be playing together for the first time. Another name you need to keep an eye on is James Smith, right? D lineman from Alabama, transferred to Ohio State. I'm sorry, Austin. It had to happen, right? He's going to compete with Edric Houston, maybe Will Smith Jr., right, for that starter. But Edric Houston and James Smith will be battling for that number one spot, bearing any injury, right? So Ohio State, listen, there's some questions about Ohio State, right? Let's dive into that schedule and what that schedule looks like for the good old Buckeyes. Listen, there's some things we need to look at here, right? Because we got Ball State right before Texas. Nice little warm-up, right? And then you got Kent State, all right? Illinois, what's that going to look like? Iowa, we talked about that in the Iowa breakdown. Go ahead and check that out if you missed it. Iowa's going to be tough. Maryland. And then you got Indiana, that game you've been wanting for, right? At the end of the day, you go to USC, which should be a better USC team. I know some people, cough, cough, may think USC's nothing to slouch about. But listen, USC could cause some problems, right? Not only that, you get Oregon at home. That's a rough 3-game stretch, right? And then you get Northwestern, Nebraska, and then I'm not going to call them what you guys call them. I'm going to call them Big Blue Michigan, right? Michigan, right? So they're outside Texas. Their second half is hard. It's going to be hard. And how are they going to overcome it? Because especially with how committee looks at things now, right? You never know what's going to matter and what's going to look like in their eyes. And the way I look at that, again, way too early. They're playing a lot of playoff games toward the end of the year, right? This is going to be one of those years where they wish they had a 2014 playoff, right? Not just them, a couple other teams as well too, right? Listen, this is not a season where Ohio State could just coast through, right? This is going to be a season where they're going to have to put their best foot forward week after week after week, and it starts with that Indiana game, right? Now, questions I have for Ohio State fans. What are your concerns heading into spring ball, heading into the season? Is it Arthur Smith, right? Is it your linebacker DB production and what that's going to look like, right? Do you have enough weapons, right, outside of Jeremiah Smith that are going to perform at the level they need to perform? Is it Julian Sayin? Or are you good? Are you good, right? Ohio State fans, you guys let me know what you think. Drop a comment, right? Ohio State, right? What does next season look like for Ohio State? What are realistic expectations for Ohio State?